Approved.
Thank you. Commissioners and visitors, staff, and our honored guests is here today. That I'm really honored to have the opportunity to give our commissioner who's outgoing today, and to welcome a new commissioner, Ms. Brody, onto the commission. This has been an exciting opportunity for me and a welcomed opportunity as well. And I would like to take this time to give each of the commissioners an opportunity to talk to Ms. Shelton, tell Ms. Shelton how much we really and truly have appreciated her input on this board. I've grown a lot, learning some components of the housing authority that I was unaware of. And some of the deep felt concerns. She taught me about that. So that's going to be my little spiel now. Commissioner Pickford.
I want to tell Mrs. Shelton I commend her on her service, her dedication, her articulation, her how she conducted her meetings, and so, as a commissioner supporting commissioner, I'm thrilled to have had the time to have had to serve with her. Thank you.
Sure. Can I also
Yes.
speak? So, Teresa and I go way back to our AmeriCorps days and our BDH days, working for the health department. I asked to be on this board because I knew that you would be a voice for others who either could not or would not or were not able to speak for themselves, and those who could speak for themselves that trusted you to be their ears and their voice. You never disappoint. Spoke the truth. You empowered other people. I'm always going to respect you, and you know that, my sister. So I'm still working with you on another board right now, but just I commend you for the work that you've done and for being that balance. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Clark. Mr. Clark.
Yeah. Ms. Shelton, I have not known you that long. We only had a short period, but everything that I've seen about you has been very professional. And that I can only say that for the fact that you're very professional and you think through everything that you're doing. You make sure that you're doing that before you even present it. And I appreciate all that you're doing. And I wish you well in whatever your endeavors are in the future. God bless you.
Ms. Shelton, I too am fairly new, but I will say that I am disappointed that we haven't had more of an opportunity to work together. Your voice is strong. Your voice has always been a voice of knowledge. You don't mince words. You speak clearly, articulate the voices of a lot of our residents, and you've enlightened me. Hopefully, the oncoming commissioner has as much, if not more, value than we do. And I would say that they have a very, like me, they have a tough road ahead in order to fulfill that goal. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes, Commissioner Shelton, I came on the board in January, so I too have not known you or worked with you very long on this board. But what I will say, as I have said in the meetings with you, the questions that you ask, it reflects your dedication. It reflected your true interest, your sincere in this board, in the housing, whole, the whole department. You certainly, from my standpoint, have the best interest of the tenants. And I certainly kind of regret that you're leaving.
Ms. Brody, you know Ms. Brody.
Mhm.
Ms. Brody, you want to have an opportunity to say something to Commissioner Shelton? She's coming.
Yes, I like to say that I first met you obviously when I became a finalist and interviewed for this job. And asked me some very poignant, important questions. And I've come to learn from you. Had an opportunity to visit with you one-on-one. You told me about the things that we ought not always just focus on housing and economic development and what we're doing, but we need to focus on the people that we serve. And that we couldn't get far afield from focusing on that we're really servicing people and not focus on public housing and brick and mortar. But remember, you're serving people. And I think that speaks volumes, really. I think a lot of times we focus on mission, and we think public housing and affordable housing. And you made it very clear. It's about people you serve. It's not about all those. It starts there. I want to say thank you for that. And I'm going to present you later on. We'll deliver to your house a proclamation for your service. And I know the chairman wants to keep it simple, but I'll read some of the things right here. It says this proclamation reads, whereas Ms. Shelton has dedicated her life to the betterment empowerment of public housing residents, to include living in Hillside Court public housing community, where she created and served as the director of the Hillside Partnership. She also served as a tenant counsel of Hillside Court, as a vice president of Richmond tenant of the RTO. She's currently a certified community health worker senior for Virginia Health Department of Health, Richmond City Department Health Department. Ms. Shelton has launched more than 14 groups and teams in the Hillside community that has encouraged members of the community to know their worth and their rights. Ms. Shelton has served on various boards to include the Maggie Walker Poverty Board, RVA Thrives, Central VA Legal Society Client Council, and the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. In addition, she served as chairperson for RRHA Property Management and Assisted Housing Committee. I read here is that on behalf of the Chairman Hardiman, all the board commissioners, we hereby today honor you, and we'll be giving this, dressing this up very nicely. Hopefully it'll help you shed a few tears when you actually read it first. That's all I want to say.
Good luck with it. Thank you.
Got something to say?
No, I mean, I have enjoyed serving as a commissioner. It doesn't stop here, as I said. This opens up that I don't have to play the politics as a citizen, so I can you're still gonna see me. I'm still gonna be signing up to speak and all that. So it's still a fight for the residents.
Right.
Y'all just understand that old folks used to say, goodbye ain't gone, and shut I ain't sleep. All right. Did anybody get an opportunity to say something?
Yeah.
We've got we're gonna get to the citizens comment period, but I've changed just a little bit. A lady has come here from one of our residents that come here, and she didn't sign up on the regular way you're supposed to do it, but I said if she's come this far and gone through the hassle, but at least let her speak. And I would like for you to know that staff is already aware of this. And what she's saying now is for our understanding and to know. And sounds to me like there can be and should be, hopefully will be, a resolution to her problem. No one should be that happens. But she's very concerned. So I say, well, all right, you're gonna speak today. Okay, so will you please come forward? What's the lady's name? Yes, state your name, please.
Sheila Evans.
Yes, Ms. Evans, come forward and state your case.
Living at 2917 for 8 years. I didn't know anything about, nobody came out my house inspected because nobody never showed up. I didn't know, nobody never gave me a notice from Richmond Redevelopment about it or nothing. When I found out about it, it was around about this year right here, November. I'm not November, this year. When I went to call somebody about it, I couldn't get in touch with nobody. I tried to email somebody, I couldn't get in touch with them through that. So I went up there to talk to somebody about it. And I went up there to talk to them about it. They told me I had to come and do a lease. I did that. And then my daughter something with MS, but she had her own place. I did my lease. Still nobody never told me anything about it. My house has failed inspection. So my landlord said, I didn't know anything about that. I got a phone call on my phone and told me to get the hell out of his house. I thought it was a prank call. He called me back. And he told me he'd give me 15 days to get out of his house. I told him I couldn't get out of there because being in the house for all these years, you can imagine what accumulates in the house. So when I told him that, I called Richmond Redevelopment. They told me they'd give me a voucher. And I waited, never got one. So I called again. They told me they'll put me in a class. Never got one. Then I called back again. They put me in a class. When I got in the class, my voucher was 15. They knocked it down to 13. I asked them why. And they told me, I think, well, I got to go into the bedroom. I said, okay, I don't have a problem with that. But when I went out there to look for one, out there, the people asked me, told me I couldn't get it nothing because everything had went up. So I came back to them. And I told them the same thing the man told me. So they told me if I had a doctor's statement, I could get my voucher raised up. I went to see my doctor. He wrote what was going on with me because I have a pinched nerve in my back. I've been suffering with this for years. And I went back to him. They gave me $1,496. Okay, I found a house. Every time I find a house, I get kicked back out. And I keep telling them, I don't know when this man gonna come and put a sign on the door and tell me to get out, me and my daughter. They're telling me, well, you gotta go look for something. Look at that, but I keep telling them, I keep paying these people money every time I put an application in. I don't have money like that. And they tell me, well, you gotta do what you gotta do. No. Then I get a notice today. They're telling me they got to take down, ticket man take down the rent $3. I asked them why. Because the rent, my voucher is $1,400. The rent is $1,395. They said they couldn't match rent. I told them, I don't know when these people gonna put me out this house. I'm living in a box every day. Me and my child. I am sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I don't know when I got to get out this house. I don't have nowhere else to go. Every time I look for a house, and they tell me if the man let me go in a 3-bedroom, I can. I had to scramble up all I can to get $500 to take to this landlord. He told me to bring it in. He would help me out. I found the house I found. Now they're telling me they got to estimate and take $3 off the rent. And they're telling me I may have to start all over. I can't keep running out this door, running back and afford paying these people $65 for, you know, a house. And I'm sick of it. I have asthma. I have a back problem. I barely can walk. And I keep telling them that. They act like they don't care. And they keep kicking me back out the door. I don't have nowhere to go. I don't know what else I can do.
Ms. Evans, let us see, this is the first time we've heard about it. Our CEO is a very compassionate individual. Give us an opportunity to step in and step up and see what we can do. I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep. There's going to be an answer some kind of way.
Give us an opportunity to step in, step up.
See what we're going to be an answer some kind of way. And I have already been informed that we are aware of your situation. So as of today, and hopefully by tomorrow, someone from the housing authority will be able to step in and help you. I want you to have a restful night tonight and know that we're going to do what we can to help you with your situation, okay? We're not gonna let $3 come in between you and your daughter.
I haven't been asleep.
Okay, well, you go home and you rest tonight, because I'm gonna tell you,
I've tried, because
you do it tonight.
I just want somewhere I can just lay my head.
Just be calm, you let us know, and now we are aware of it. All of us as board members are aware of it, and we're gonna see what we can do to get this done. Like I said, Mr. Nesbitt is here, and he's a very, don't worry, I may take you home. But you be prayerful that it's gonna be okay, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, hold on, Mr. Jeff.
I'm gonna have Ms. Kenyatta Green, just take you out there and speak with you and talk with you about how we can help.
All right.
Ms. Priscilla, who we have next on the
I'm
agenda?
all right.
Grace Washington, is she here?
I'm here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, you can speak?
Well, I came tonight to speak on behalf, I believe, for the Jackson Place project. And I just wanted to speak in support of that project, not only for the housing that it will provide for some of our low-income residents, but also for the economic opportunity that I know that this particular developer, Mike Hopkins, will provide for the community as far as our small and minority contractors, as well as real workforce opportunities for our residents. And not only during the construction phase, but also in what is going to be developed post-construction, like jobs that will be available in the hotel, resident service opportunities that might be available in the housing, property management. Because we need developers who are going to make a real commitment. And as the premier Section 3 consultant in the region, I work with most of the affordable housing developers that are currently developing public housing. Some of them have a sincere effort or make a sincere effort to abide by the Section 3 regulations by providing contractual opportunities and training and jobs. Some of them do not. I can attest that Mike Hopkins and the Jackson Place will. And that's my little speech for today. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Ms. Washington, thank you so much. We appreciate all you do because we know you're very busy in other areas of our city, making some things happen, that you've got an eye on what is going on in our city. We appreciate the support that you're bringing from your office. Thank you so much. Next.
Lester?
Stu Lester.
Yes. Good evening, all. This is about my third or fourth time being before you to speak on behalf of Third Street Bethel Church and also Club 533. You have heard the history of both of the church and the club. You've heard our president, the lit pastor of the church, you've heard him speak about wanting to see the success of the project, Jackson Place, with the developer, Mike Hopkins. I'm here one last time, just on behalf of all of those church members, which there are over 300 people that go to that church, and almost 200 members of the club that have been in that area, club, the church, hundreds of years, over 100 years, the club since 1956. I was looking at a document today, dated 1997, and I just so happened to look at underneath the signature of the letter, and I saw George Martin's name on it from 1997, when Club 533 when Club 533 sold the land that is about to be developed by Mike Hopkins to the city of Richmond. Mr. Martin, your name is on that letter. Ed Pittman was the attorney of record, but you were CC'd on that letter. Since 1997, we've been right there at that location. I'm asking again, one more time, and we've had the verbal commitments from the CEO, and I've already told you, one-on-one, man-to-man, how much I respect him. I've told you that. I want to see him be successful. I want to see Jackson Ward be successful. When I say I want to say, I'm speaking for the church and the members. At the same time, we need the club to stay viable. We need the church to stay there. The only way it can be solved is through parking accommodations. At the same time, Naismith has given us word. The commissioners have said, we're not going to forget about the club. You have a historical significance to the city of Richmond. I'm just asking, you're going to hear some beautiful presentations. Mr. Hopkins, President of Jackson Ward, from our distinct councilwoman, Kathy Jordan. I don't know if Lambert is on the call there. You're going to hear some positive things about the project. Don't forget about the church. Don't forget about the club. Those people have been supporting this community longer than all. I'm telling you, there's no. Well, Doug is a member of the club. He's 93, and there's a number of members down there that are over 80 that have been in that club since a little after it started. Please, please, please do not forget to support the club and the church in finding a solution for the park. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Lester.
Thank you.
Next, we have on the agenda, Ms.
James.
Good evening. My name is Janice Allen. I'm president of the Historic Jackson Board Association. Cannot see without my glasses, so I'll put them on from time to time. Thank you, Mr. Lester. I wasn't going to start with parking, but because you ended there, I will start. He's absolutely right that we cannot forget about the parking. Can't forget about so many things in this project. And parking is an issue that this whole city has. So we have to continue to work together to make sure we can get the development that we need, as well as figure out parking solutions. I'm very pleased to say that I was in a meeting with your CEO, with Mike Hopkins, our council member, Ellen Robertson, Club 533, and the church. And we did make a commitment that parking would be worked on. We would try to find solutions and suggestions. Also, the club was also made aware that it can use that parking for the next, I think the designated time was 18 months. So it's a good chunk of time to find a solution, and we will. But I digress from my script, and I'll get back. I am here to support the Jackson Place project, Jackson Place 2. And this support is coming from the community, from the Historic Jackson Ward Association, and from me personally. And it's not just support that started. This project has been going on for quite a while, so I'm offering continued support. We supported the project when it was in the RFP stage. We supported it when it was awarded to Mr. Hopkins. and we continue to support it as it comes back up to be looked at and revisited. We were happy and we remain happy with the fact that Mr. Hopkins won the project. Mike is a proven commodity in our community. Excuse me. He helped develop the Black History Museum and has done all kinds of things to show us his commitment to community engagement. Additionally, this project is right in line with every charrette, not just one study, not just the Jackson Ward Community Plan, not just the charrette that put this RFP on the table, but every time you ask Jackson Ward what do they want in a project, we say the following things: mixed use, commercial and residential. For residential, mixed product. Give us apartments, housing, and some affordable of both. And please give us some affordable home ownership. And we also ask for mixed income. This project does all that and more. It does that, and it also talks about economic development, and it will demonstrate the job opportunities that it has. I guess I'm here to say, I hope that we leave tonight with this resolution passed. I've talked to a lot of people about this project, particularly Richmond Redevelopment Housing. We talk about low-hanging fruit. It doesn't come, pick this one up off the ground, let's go. I really want to see this project, the Jackson Ward community, we thank you. You'll solve the parking, I trust you will. And I hope you guys also, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Allen.
You're welcome, Commissioner Johnson.
Who's next?
You have a public comment, members? Is that it? That's it?
Councilwoman Jordan?
Hello.
No. Welcome.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm Catherine Jordan. I represent the 2nd District on City Council. And even before I was on council and I first met Ms. Allen, she walked me around Jackson Ward to tell me about the history and also about the current and the future goals. And one of the things she pointed out was the empty place where Jackson Place was supposed to be and how much she wanted that project, how much the community, wanted that project to move forward. She said there was this developer, I don't know if you know him, his name is Mike Hopkins, he's one of the good ones. And so I'm really glad to be here today to see this hopefully pass through that hurdle and get into actualization. I think you guys all know it's pretty rare to have a project that the community, neighborhood associations support. Obviously with some reservations and some comments that we need to make sure we're solving the parking problem. But neighborhood association supports this. I support it. I ask for your support so we can get moving on this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jordan. Okay, next on our agenda is Jackson Place. We've got to back up a little bit. Our council has advised us we have not approved the minutes from the last meeting. And if everybody's had an opportunity to review those, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the approved minutes as reported.
Second.
Been moved, properly second by Ms. Blood. All in favor? Yes. Yes. We're going to do a roll call for the votes.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
What?
Aye.
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Park?
Aye. You don't have to call this.
Sorry, forgive me. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Brody? Brody?
Thank you so much. The minutes have been adopted, approved. We're now going to have comments by the chair regarding, the CEO regarding Jackson Place. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to speak to this project, the Jackson Development Project. This board voted when it last met on this project last year. And what this board voted on was for the developer, Michael Hopkins, to negotiate in good faith with myself and our real estate team on what we thought this will be the best and highest use of this particular property. I am happy to say that that did occur. And this particular development is focused not just on affordable housing. It is simply both affordable housing, economic development, and job creation. I'll let Mr. Hopkins speak to the particulars of this project, but I'll say that this project is estimated to create 368 jobs, direct jobs, indirectly about 1,503. As I sit on the board for Venture Richmond here in the city, which many of the other present CEOs and other leaders in the city sitting on, and the city of this current administration, that is this mayor's administration, had its economic development director for the city speak at our recent board meeting. And one of the biggest things that was on the agenda is that the need for this city to have another hotel. It is the one thing that, as far as economic development, jobs is concerned, that is lacking. And so it is a good thing that this project not only is going to create jobs, but it's also going to lacking things that this city needs, that our economic development director for the city just talked about, and that is we need more hotels to draw more conventions, to create more jobs. So I'm happy that this project does all those things. And I'm hoping that this board moves forward in a positive vote on this project tonight. I think it would be appropriate. And then, by the way, when we do go in your packet, you'll see, I know there's a lot of papers in your packet. I think towards the back, you will see the resolution, the proposed resolution that we will be voting on tonight. I think it's the last one. It's number 2 at the very top. It says proposed resolution number 2. It's an agenda item number 2. That is the resolution. And what we agreed, as I mentioned at the opening, we did negotiate with Mr. Hopkins in good faith, in that we said that he must meet certain conditions in order for this deal to close. And you'll see them there in the resolution, specifically in the 1, 2, 3, 4th whereas paragraph. You'll see what he has to do. And that is tonight, when the chairman calls a question on this particular project, the developer must, as it says in that paragraph, meet the conditions. And as it reads, I'll say some of the conditions are: 1, that this property must be assessed by an independent third-party appraiser to determine the value of the property and its sale price. We would sell it to him. Number 2, he must meet the schedule. He needs to schedule meetings with community stakeholders and members of city council. That would include, again, 533 Club and the church and others. He's already done some initial outreach. It must meet address some affordable housing goals, home ownership goals, which it does. And he'll speak to that, and meet some minority women and small business requirements as well, and Section 3. So he needs to, what you all will be voting on tonight is for RHA, is me as CEO, to enter into a purchase agreement to sell this property to the M companies. But he must meet those conditions that I just articulated, which he has agreed to. If he doesn't meet those conditions, then this development will not close. He has agreed to meet those conditions. He knows that those conditions are set forth herein. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would turn it back to you and let Mr. Hopkins speak to the specifics of the development. Before you call the question.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hopkins, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry I couldn't be in person, but yes, I am.
You have the floor, sir, if you have comments.
So, yes, first I want to thank the staff of RRHA and the board for being diligent and moving this forward, as well as the committee and the Jacksonville Association. I take no light in 533 in the church and the parking needs of Store Jacksonville totally overall. I must say that in the start of my career, Jackson Place was one of the first projects that I approached to be as a builder almost 30 years ago. So I understand the sensitivity of the timeline of how long this property is set undeveloped in the community. And on 2nd Street, which is one of the most vibrant streets at one point in time in African-American history. And as a developer, that's what we're charged to do. We're charged to bring vibrancy back to a community. And when you say Richmond redevelopment and housing, the part of this project that I think everybody needs to understand is that we're part of redevelopment. Some of you may not know the rich history of RRHA, but RRHA financed the Marriott at one time, Tobacco Row, and it was their leading economic engines in the city. At one point in time, the home ownership program won awards. This project is going to follow in that traditional path. We broke the records on Section 3 and MD participation, and we'll bring that same commitment to this project as we've had on several projects throughout Jackson Ward. We've been involved with Kelvin Hanson, the Hanson Company, on 3 projects in that community: home ownership, senior housing, and as well as the Black History Museum, as you know. I think this particular project is an anchor and a catalyst to let the city and the other communities around us know the value that Jackson Ward brings outside of being the hub of just affordable low-income housing. Some of the richest, most wealthiest minds came out of Jackson Ward. Doug Wilder lived there. So this project is going to be a beacon to turn the tide that we are open for economic business as well as home ownership. We're following the lines of the Urban Design Associate Charette, what the community's done. Some of you know we've been working tirelessly on this since 2018 to make sure we've dotted every I and crossed every T. We understand we still have a ways to go, and we're committed. We have outlined in the purchase agreement 4 community outreach sessions, which will be open to the public, as well as anchored by the Historic Jackson Ward Association, to make sure we get everyone's input on the final, how this project finally looks. I just say that everybody needs to understand a lot of tentacles are pulling at this project. There are interest rates, there are home ownership challenges. We're looking for the economic anchor so that we can do the affordable in a way that's meaningful and impactful. If you all do know, this project is the 2nd phase of what was already developed on the west side of 2nd Street, which is an affordable mixed income project. So if you look at the master study and the master plan, and there's been several, as Ms. Allen has stated, this is just the 2nd phase. But what we did is we listened to the community, we added home ownership to it. It's a challenge, but we've always met the challenge. We have about 18 months that we've committed to work with 533 and the church on them resolving the parking. We had a great meeting with Councilwoman Robinson and staff. We went over to and looked at some options and found out there were some viable options that we're going to work with them on. We're willing to use our collective power with the hotel to try to help work on parking in the area. So I just want to let you guys know, some of you don't know, we are very committed to investing in the community, not just in bricks and mortar, but in the people in the community. We do a lot of other activities in the community with the youth. So I just want you all to know that we are vested in this community well past the 30 years that we've already been in the community.
Mr. Hopkins, thank you so very, very much. We appreciate it. I've learned a lot since I've been on this board regarding this particular project. I've heard from several members in the community from 533 and from the church. So this is going to have a tremendous impact on us all. Now, as we move forward, does any commissioners have any questions or concerns they would like to address to Mr. Hopkins in this project?
Vice Chair, can you ask a question?
Yes, yes.
What will be the number of rooms, in the hotel?
So right now we're tracking between 100 and 150. We've got to do a lot of due diligence. We did some previously. Of course, the economy's changed, but it will be no more than 150. We're between 100 and 150.
Have you identified, a brand?
Yes, absolutely. We've identified and talked to several flags. I do not wish to talk about that openly in an open forum, but yes. And we've had them visit the site, and they're excited about the possibility of an anchor hotel there. As you know, like I said, the economy's doing a lot of things. But tourism in Richmond, if you just saw recently, tourism in Richmond is, because of sports, is tracking in the top in the country.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, and so I want to, this question is in regards to the project itself, and maybe Mr. Martin, you have the ability to respond, or Mr. Hopkins. So in our Section 3 committee, we are striving to make efforts where we set a minimum standard for contractors and developers who begin to work with us. Obviously, this project, as Mr. Hopkins stated, exceeds those boundaries, but do we know what those measurements are? And will that be recorded as part of the contract? Because if anything, seeing that it exceeds, will it set precedent in stating what we should expect from other developers as they look forward to doing business with us?
Yeah, those details and others will be set forth in specificity in the agreement.
And Commissioner Jackson, yes, we have a tracking mechanism that we use from a template, and that will be monthly reports given to the staff, which will then, I hope, will filter up to the board. We do a very detailed upfront one-on-one sessions. We work intimately with the Office of OMBD, and as well as Grace Washington. And we have a very good program. We'd love to sit down with you and go through it with you even before we start. And we will be doing Section 3 and MBE outreaches. That is a part of our whole process. And that's not a contractual obligation. We do that on any project. And I know it will be a part of the contract, but that's why we're stellar at it, because we do it on projects that are outside of government requirements. And I'll be more than happy to sit down with any board member that wants to go over our plan for this project.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I know that the developer is open to some more specific language on that when we do the ultimate sale agreement. That's all.
Pardon? You have a question?
I think, what was said about George just now, that will be a part of the package, the original package that goes forward. We just have highlights here. So we will see those specifics at some point in time. Those are the things we need. Correct.
Does any other commissioner have something they want to bring? Ms. Blunt?
No, as long as our requirements are being met, and that according to this agreement, you'll be scheduling meetings with community stakeholders, including us. So I just want to make sure that in addition to Grace Washington and the other person you mentioned, that we too will be getting the reports monthly on those Section 3 workforce requirements to see if they're continuing to be met.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, the considerations that you have for the Club 533 and the AME Church parking lot. We would like to see some things put down in writing about that as well, so that they will know from the beginning what is going to happen, what to expect, and hopefully you all can come to some sort of an agreement, because they are part of Historical Jackson Ward.
Thank you. On that note, I would like to bring that resolution forward, entertain a motion that we move forward with the agreement so that the speakers will come to speak in support, and feel free to leave if they want as we get into the other items on our agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we go forward with this based on what we have and the conversation that we had with the two commissioners.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parker. I'll give a second.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and properly second that the CEO enter into agreement with Michael Hopkins to move this project forward.
I'll do a roll call, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Blunt,
Aye.
Pittsburgh,
Aye.
Jackson. Aye. Parker. Aye. Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Cody. Brody.
Mr. Johnson.
Motion approved.
The motion has been approved. Thank you so much for everybody who's included, including the staff. Thank you so much for staying at the table with this and our CEO and everybody who came to support. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay. You speak again, don't you? Okay, we're gonna have some further comments, the CEO's activities.
Yes, so the next, yes, sir. The next item on our agenda is an item, we're gonna do a high level, not detail, in the interest of time. We'll come back later on and have a very detailed conversation around our bond financing goals for the future. But you've been asking many, many times that can we have at least a high level understanding of what our two bond financing programs are and how we may move forward. I know that our current bond financing program where developers come through us for bonds, we will later have a conversation about making sure that our program is competitive so that developers don't go somewhere else and we're losing out on those fees. And there's not other language, some other things that we need to look at to make sure that developers want to come to our housing authority and not go to other places for their bond authority. And then last, of course, with our ambitious goal, because we have a legal authority to go out and issue a housing revenue bond. And for that presentation on both of those things, I'm going to have our Senior Vice President for Real Estate, Darrell Davis, give a presentation on both.
All right, before you go forward, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate what you're saying about the bond financing and also making sure that we are in a good position for people to come our way instead of going other ways. I've sat on the board in Rico, and there was a while where everything was going to North Carolina and other places they were doing bond finance, and we were wondering why everything was going around us. So I appreciate the fact that you're proactive about this fact that let's make sure we got to act together if they start coming to us. Sorry about that, Mr. Davis, but I just want to make that point.
And as a follow-up, that we are competitive.
Right. Yes.
Making so that we are there because we want our RDC to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure that we're not, if we can lower interest rates to a point that we can pull folk into our advantage, and that's being done. I've already articulated that to our CEO, and he's paying attention. He's going forward.
Mr. Johnson, you said, Stephen mentioned yesterday about the fact that it doesn't have to go to another board for approval. It can be approved right here.
City,
that's very important too. You don't have levels of improvement.
that's right.
That is one of the advantages we have, right? So if the city wants to move forward with the bond issuance, then they have to go to the city council and they've got to do vote count and get those votes. If it doesn't pass, it fails. Additionally, if they do get the votes, they still have to go out and referendum, and all the city citizens of the city have to vote on it. Unlike here, we have a unique vehicle, and that is, we, that is the collective we, the board, we don't have to do all of that. We can go move fast, when I use a big word, with alacrity, speed, and to do things. In fact, we met with the city, and they want to do stuff with us because they know that we can move quicker on this than David Rose, who's their top guy. They're anxious to partner with us. We can make some decisions to go with the city and partner, because when we would sell our bonds to Wall Street, it's stronger. But we don't need to partner with the city. But I think they would like to partner with us if we go forward. This will be the first time when we do go forward sometime next year, once we clean up our balance sheet first, which we're working really, really hard. We'll get to. I think it can be pretty exciting. But Daryl. Great.
All right, I want to start with the competition issue and clarify that up real quick, because there is no competition. We have statutory authority to issue housing bonds in the city of Richmond. It was the predecessors on this board that voted to allow people to go around the housing authority. So it's not even a matter of setting interest rates or anything like that. We have statutory authority in the city of Richmond. So we should just remember that when people come to us and ask to go around us. And I want to add one more thing on there, because sometimes people complain about our fees. We actually looked statewide, and I believe when we looked, we were the second highest in the state, and I think that is appropriate. Fairfax County was higher than ours. Actually, Virginia housing is higher than ours as well. But what the developers were doing is going around the city of Richmond to these small localities, because once we pass on them, they can go to Petersburg or any of these little small places where they can get better prices and better fees because it's a smaller locality. I mean, we have expenses being a housing authority in the city of Richmond. And so we think our pricing is completely in line with the rest of the state. Don't believe it should be changed. We should just stop allowing developers to go around us. In terms of, now, I also want to say I am not a bond expert. I've been doing this 30 years. I've been using the housing bonds for most of that time. It is extremely complex. And so I think, you would be much better off if you have specific questions about the details. We will bring in a bond expert who can answer those questions with specificity. But to give you the Reader's Digest version, our pass-through bond program is simply just us facilitating developers going out on the market to raise money for their projects. So essentially, they come to us, we issue the bonds, they take those bonds and sell them either on Wall Street or to private investors, or however, whatever mechanism their project team sees fit. That money then is taken to fund the project, and then it's paid back over time. Most of the time, in the case of affordable housing projects, they are short-term bonds because the developers really don't need the bonds, but they have to take out those bonds to access the tax credit. That's a whole different thing that we'll talk about another time. But essentially, we are allowing them to, we are providing for them a mechanism to finance debt. The other thing, the housing authority does have the authority to issue debt on its own behalf, and in which case we would take those bonds and go out on the market to sell those bonds, either to finance a project or to finance a series of projects, as long as there is revenue that can actually back up and pay back that bond. And that is evaluated by, bond underwriters. They make sure the project has the proper revenue, et cetera, et cetera. They rate the bond. And then once the bond is rated, we would take it out to investors or the public and issue those bonds and pay them back over whatever time we agree. So those are kind of the two ways that the bond program is used. It's all we talk about it's pretty much the same thing. It's just issuing bonds. It's a way of doing debt. But we are a pass-through when we do it for other entities. We just issue the bonds on the, they take control. We also have the ability to issue our own bonds based on our own projects. And then, we would go out and finance, which would be used to pay back that debt. Any questions on bond financing pre-101?
Yes. And for me, it's bond financing the dumbest. When we talk about bond financing, someone comes through and that instrument is issued. There is some revenue generated for us.
Yes,
that's correct. And is that a one-time fee up front, or is for the duration of the loan?
There is a one-time fee up front, and I believe, Mr. Mark, there is an annual fee that goes into maintaining those bonds.
Cumulatively, that could be a pretty good.
I don't know if the list was complete, but I believe over the last 7 or 8 years, we took in approximately $1 million total in bond fees. I might have the time frame wrong, but I did look at a list of bond projects. There were approximately someplace between 9 and 12 projects on that list, and since their inception, they have generated a total of $1 million in fees.
That's great. That's outstanding.
And that's not including the ones that we let go by.
And so if we get out and be the offensive, take the offense and create, that could be a substantial improvement in revenue coming in that we can use either to add to the RDC or to our residents for other programming like our STEM. Outstanding.
Mr. Chair, I'd like for our legal counsel, George Martin, to also speak to the issue. He's been involved in a lot of content. I think it'd be great to have him speak.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but I'll just add to the fact that when developers come to the authority for what we call conduit bonds, we have no exposure whatsoever on that deal. So it is the bond itself is actually issued in the name of the authority, but for all intents and purposes, the developer is the borrower, and they are on the hook to pay back.
Important clarification. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we have no exposure. Thank you for that.
And just as the CEO mentioned, bonds were issued for Tobacco Row. Exact date, December 21, 1989. $150 million worth of bonds issued by this authority. Bonds were issued for the two, what are now Truist projects, which were at the time Crustar projects.
For the duration of what?
For the construction of the mortgage company and back office building for the bank in Southside.
Okay.
Bonds were also issued for the parking garage for the Barton Agency. So there have been lots of instances where the authority has issued bonds and taken, in some instances, an ownership interest in those projects as well.
If I can add to that, you actually bring up a very important thing. The $1 million in revenue that I spoke of was all on housing projects, which were approximately $10 to $20 million in project costs. The bonds that the Housing Authority used to do, as Mr. Martin just said, were in the hundreds of millions, which would generate much more revenue than we are currently getting with the project bonds.
That's what I wanted to know. Bingo.
I'm hoping, one of the things that CEO mentioned is that us partnering and going forward with the city, we move forward initiatives. And I'm hoping that with the development of our central downtown, we make sure we go in as a partner to try to make sure that we can keep that as much as we can in-house and go through with our partnership to make sure that big ticket item that's going to be happening with the Coliseum, that we're a part of that. Also the Diamond District, we want to be a part of that. There are some things, there's some initiatives that can really be beneficial to us and that we can be beneficial to the city. We can make sure that we step up front and say, yes, we are partners, we are playing, we are committed to this. And I've got every confidence that the CEO is going to do that. So I really appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, I'll add one quick comment there in line with what you just said. There have been several instances where the authority issued bonds on behalf of the city so that they wouldn't have to put it on their balance sheet. And in those instances, we've had what's legally called a moral obligation, which based credit enhancement to help keep the rate down on the bonds. But there have been plenty of instances where we've really done it.
That's outstanding. Anywhere, because we've gone through some tumultuous times over the past 15 years. I think now with this board and the new CEO, we have an excellent opportunity to make sure that folk know that we intend to be players in our city, that we're going to go forward collectively to do the best we can to make us what we need to be and what we can be here. So that's good. One other thing you mentioned, Daryl, and that is that there have been some things that have been allowed by the board. There's saying, that have put us in a situation, in a sub status, if you will. It's gonna be incumbent upon you guys, I'm gonna depend on you, to allow us, to educate us on the fact that this works to our advantage, that don't, or that doesn't. So don't assume that I know, or that I'm out. They ask questions. Make sure that you come to the table and let us know what we should know. Thanks, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In fact, George will be our lead on moving forward on our bond financing program and bringing the other players to the table, like underwriters and the rest, financial advisors, et cetera, et cetera.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question to,
Yes.
to our CEO's point. With George leading that, that's a significant opportunity. I'm certain I don't know if it's conflict of interest, but are you able to broker opportunities with clients that you represent, i.e. Diamond District, and our opportunities to help finance needs so that we are positioned appropriately?
The simple answer is yes. So, but yes, definitely, we can help look for opportunities. Sphere developers, if you will. And I might add, as you know, we also work hand in hand with Maryland Chambers.
Yes.
And they also have their able bond department as well. In fact, they are bond counsel to the city of Richmond. And they're also bond counsel to the HDA. May I just say, Mr. Chairman, we have a wonderful opportunity with Mr. Martin sitting right there, because where I was in Valley have been one of the premier attorney organizations in the state of Virginia as far as what we're talking about now. And so they're the lead as far as that. So to have them sitting right there is really an asset for us in a big way. So we need to just take advantage of it. And as I think Mr. Johnson mentioned just now, we're going to listen and be educated on a lot of things as we go along. But I think we have some level of comfort in the fact that at least we have some of the good folks sitting right beside us at the table. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is, I just want to mention that at some later time, George Martin we'll go in a closed session and talk about a board training. Particularly, we have new members. We think that's critically important. We have even members who are current members. May have to go, maybe need some refresher around board training. We'll do that in a closed session. And also, we'll talk about the role of the board and the role of the committees. And we'll do that later at some later time. But that's important because when we were going for a HUD audit, one of the things that our COO, Mike Kelly, mentioned to us is that one of the ways in which we can easily get pinged or find a minor finding is if the board has not gone through proper training. So I just want to mention that there'll be at some point later on, but that'll be done in close.
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
Yes.
Stephen, to that point, so who will be filling our chairperson of property management?
So I spoke with Chairman Harmon about that. That is his decision, obviously. He's had preliminary conversations with the Honorable Charlene Pitchford, who has expressed an interest in that. And I'll wait for him to make the final decision regarding that.
Good enough. Thank you for that.
The next item is from our current Chief Operating Officer, Fabio, Chief Financial Officer, Fabio. And if you see on there, there's a word about his transition and accomplishments. Fabio, when I first interviewed Fabio, and when I was with Darrell Davis and some of the other members, I said, listen, I'm here. I'm all in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm retiring here in Richmond. And I did not, but I was considering taking what they do, and like you remember the movie Godfather, where you take a military oath. You take a little blood, And I was going to do that, but I didn't do that during the interview because I have to be reported to Human Resources. But I basically have granted Fabio a waiver because to move on to his next opportunity, he's found a job that's going to pay him 3 times as much as what he's paying now. I said, decommission, I know you're going to be angry, but this was a family decision. I'll be making the most money I ever had in my life. This is a family business decision. And I know I've only been here a very short time. But my wife and I, and we just moved our entire family here 2 weeks ago from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that was a big undertaking. Now I got to pack them up, but I really had to pack them up for this opportunity. And I said to him, I said, well, I didn't get a call for reference. I said, because if I had, I would have told them that you had done something illegal. You would have not had that opportunity. You still be here. I want Fabio to say a few words about his time here, what he's going to do. And then he wants to share with you some of his accomplishments that he's accomplished, because it's very important when he's going to go through a list of accomplishments he's done in a short time. And he always said, you got me working weekends. I say, well, I never said you had to work weekends here, but the speed at which you go and the energy, I kind of feel like I had to be on weekends. But sometimes I call Fabio on Saturday, he'd come in for a couple of weeks. I think his wife wasn't here. But he works Saturdays sometimes. And he said, you got like a year out of me. He's going to go through some of those accomplishments, and I'll let him talk about that. And I'll pass some of those out. Fabio.
I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to serve as your Chief Financial Officer. Like Mr. Nesbitt said, this was not an easy decision. I have, in my short time, I've established some strong relationships with the folks here at the Richmond Housing Authority, and I want you to succeed in all your endeavors, and I was right there alongside of you. But unfortunately, I had met with this employer back in 2020, and they decided to go a different route at the time, and then they circled back just a few weeks ago and basically offered me the position over the phone. So it's one of those opportunities that you really have to think away and make the tough choice. I appreciate the opportunity that you've awarded me here. Some of the accomplishments that when I started here at the Housing Authority, the Finance Department was behind. There was a 21 fiscal year audit back in June when I talked to Ms. Sheila Hill Christensen about the role. It was still pending. In November when I met with Mr. Nesbitt, he assured me, don't worry, it'll be done by December. I got here in January, it was still underway. But we've managed to wrap that up. We presented it to you at the February board meeting. However, it was not filed with HUD at the time. But as of May 8th, it was filed with HUD. So that was a tremendous accomplishment that the finance team has pulled together. Again, these are not my accomplishments. These are the team's accomplishments. I just happen to be fortunate enough to be at the front of the finance department at the time. We've worked in collaboration with our new external financial auditor, Rubino and Company, to update the finance system so that our beginning numbers tied to the fiscal year in 2021. That was something that had not been done in several fiscal years. There was a gap between our financial audit and our financial starting numbers, which caused our balance sheet to get out of line. The new external auditors, Rubino and Company, were working on site May 1st through the 15th. They met with other departments. They've requested over 400 items to be provided to them, either through the prepared by client list or selected audit testing. We've provided them all of that information, and we continue to provide them information as recent as this week. Rubino's audit team have conducted interviews with the CEO, other members of the staff, and have met with Commissioner Blunt, Chairman Hardiman, to interview them. And these are standard audit questions. They'll ask questions regarding concerns that they have, concerns with fraud, areas of concerns with the operations of the agency, finances, and general staff questions. Finance is working with the finance auditors to close out the fiscal year 22 audit to meet the HUD deadline of June 30th. We have filed an extension with HUD back in April. However, HUD has until really the middle of next week to determine if that extension is granted. However, we're working with the auditor to still perform at the end of June as our drop dead date, where we have to have a product that needs to be at a point where it can be filed with HUD so that we are remain in compliance. Finance team has provided information to HUD through the emergency choice voucher and updated information on the VMS, which results in increased funding for the emergency voucher program. The Finance Department provided documents for the HUD agency-wide compliance audit. Finance Department's audit consisted of generating reports, reviewing all financial policies, updating areas to reflect current operations. This process resulted in an up-to-date digital finance policy handbook that was developed out of this and distributed to team members. Prior to that, it was a paper binder. Not all people had it. Not all people knew where the digital versions were. We converted those and we updated and distributed. So now, as we amend policies, update procedures, we can distribute that in real time to our staff so everybody's up to date. We've established standard operating procedures for the finance department where structure lacked prior. Examples of this are the fixed assets, the accounts payable, the accounts receivable, and general ledger accounting. Updated accounting and finance processes, the federal government drawdowns in line with HUD standard. Updated PO workflow in Yardi, our financial software, updated credit card approval process and levels, and digitized incoming check payment registers. What does that mean? Whenever we receive a check that does not process through the lockbox, we have to log that in. It was a paper file. Paper could get damaged, lost, mishandled. This is a digital file, so as long as we save it, it's on our server forever. So that in itself kind of brings us a little more current. And the auditors will request to view that as they do their operations and compliance standardized testing at the beginning of an audit process. So it's important that we maintain that in a digital platform. It makes it easier to transfer those files as well to the auditor where they're not having to photocopy binders. This is something that I'm very proud of. We added key staff members to fill long pending vacancies. The staff members have hit the ground running and picked up quickly to address long pending items such as updating the 2-year tool, which is a HUD tool used to estimate future funding for Section 8, the SRAP, which is a state of Virginia funding tool, the resident tenant councils reconciliations are up to date. The training will be scheduled to be held in this room tomorrow at 11 o'clock, something that's been a long wish for the resident tenant council. We've established structure and timeline with HUD federal grant draws are to occur on the operating capital and special program funds. All the bank reconciliations have been brought up through 2022, with a majority of them reconciled to the current month in fiscal year 23. When I first got here, there were several bank recs that were still in 2022, and there were several bank recs that hadn't been touched in over 12 to 18 months. So all of that has been resolved, reconciled, and now we're working closer in real time, which means better information, more accurate information, more timely information. Staff has worked diligently to close out fiscal year 2022 and account for fiscal year 23 financial activities, all in an effort to bring and maintain financial workflows closer to a normal operating cycle. Currently, we're still behind. We haven't been caught up in several years, but we're that much closer to operating in a real time frame, which allows us not only to provide accurate information, but gives us staff time to focus on the current and not the previous information to evaluate the GLs to ensure that we're accurately reporting activity. We hosted 2 NAMK consultants to evaluate our finance team that says path forward. With those results, we're working with NAMK to schedule training for them to have an on-site team to close knowledge gaps in HUD accounting. The NAMK estimates for the finance team only there'll be about 578 training hours for the finance team. So Mr. Nesmith, Mr. Kelly have their proposal schedule. It's just a matter of them getting together and determining a path forward with that. Finance has filled paperwork to close out capital grants 2017, May of 2022. This is an item that was not prioritized by previous leadership of the finance department. Whenever we close out a capital grant, we draw it for the full value. That establishes that grant has no more value to it, but it needs to be formally closed to HUD. And we had a gap there. 2017 closed in 2022, and no paperwork was filed. The we've successfully filed that paperwork. That document becomes part of the audited financial statements. We completed a QC review for operating subsidies for 2024, which is used by HUD to determine future funding of the operating subsidy. Mr. Nesmith will formally introduce Katrina Wolfram, who's sitting next to Chairman Jackson. She was instrumental in assisting in closing out and completing that review. We restructured the budget process for RRHA's fiscal year 24, putting us more in line with industry standards. We contracted with former employee Tiana Woolridge to implement these budgetary changes, and they're currently underway. Again, it's been my pleasure to serve the authority. I appreciate the opportunity. I apologize for the short term in nature. But, moving here with my family, we have a comedy of errors as far as procuring housing, procuring moving companies. So it was a greater power telling me that Richmond was not intended to be my forever home. So far, we've had a much smoother endeavor in a short period of time in planning our move to Columbus, Ohio. So let's just go. There's greater powers in control, no matter how hard we try to work against it. Again, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Fabio.
Mr. Chairman.
In the words of Chris Rock, I want to say, I don't agree, but I understand. Yes, sir.
And I don't want to prolong the meeting, but I would feel remiss if I didn't step in here. I hope you don't mind.
No,
Mr.
sir.
CEO.
No, sir.
In the short time he's been here, because he's been more than the CFO. He has actually become a friend to me. And it is a big loss for the agency. One of the things, just a couple quick things I want to say is, one of the things that I've appreciated about Fabio being here is, first and foremost, he understood the importance of finance and real estate working together. And that you don't find often in this industry, at least. And so we developed a relationship over that. Second is trustworthiness. And, as a senior VP, there's a lot of things you can't share with the rest of the staff, particularly some of the difficulties of working with your boss. But I can, Kenyatta and I have developed that relationship, and Fabio and I had developed that relationship where I could voice frustrations and trust that they would go no further. I'm very confident that nobody in this room or this agency knows some of the things that we discuss. And that's important when you're running an agency of this size, to be able to talk about those things, talk about concerns. And I want you to know I appreciate being able to share those things with you and knowing that they would be held in confidence. And lastly, and this is most important, and Mr. Nesmith, I want you to, this should be your primary concern in filling that post. Lastly, is his integrity. One of the things that got this agency in trouble is taking shortcuts. And Fabio and I, and along with Kenyatta, one of the things that has allowed us to gel is that we all hold that same philosophy, that there will be no shortcuts. If we got to work a little harder, stay a little longer, whatever we got to do, there will be no shortcuts. And I think that is one of the things that allowed finance to make the strides that it's made. So I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss my cigar smoking buddy. I do have a parting gift for you before you go. But I think it's important to know those things. And I hope that we can, find somebody. Those are going to be some hard shoes to fill. And the last thing is, Katrina and I have exchanged some heated emails from time to time because we're both pretty passionate. And I would always know right after those email exchanges would occur, Fabio was going to be coming down the hall. And so I appreciated that as well, helping to get through that. But I'm here to help during the transition, whatever you need from me, because we certainly need a lot from you. So thank you for allowing me to share that. And Fabio, we're going to miss you.
Chair, I would just say, when we move the agenda, Fabio's last day is this Friday.
Oh, Lord.
We've been fortunate to have Katrina, who's sitting to the right of Commissioner Jackson, working hand in glove every day. She's been here since, I think, March of this year. Working hand in glove every single day with Fabio, essentially as his deputy. Regina comes with a unique background. She has been the chief financial officer of a housing authority in Springfield, Missouri. She also was the CEO of a housing authority in Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri. So I remember one day, I was in February, like a month and a half after she got here, Fabio walked to my office and he said,
All right, we're about to do the commentary now. Now we're going to do
like, man, come on,
this half of the meeting.
That is because
going to be with commentary.
Background is in aviation.
This half of the meeting will be with commentary.
Specifically, as you all know, when you're talking accounting and finance, you can be a CFO for Dominion or Marriott, but accounting and finance and public housing is granular. It's very specific. And so Regina has been that advisor to Fabio.
Kind of lies they tell. Fabio wasn't in there a year, wasn't?
As of 8:30 next week, Monday morning, Katrina will be the acting CFO. And so thank you for stepping up in that.
The new CFO.
In a robust.
I don't even think they had a CFO position before Fabio got there.
We were negotiating with a gentleman who's a current CFO of another housing authority here, and I won't tell you which one it is, here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And he was going to be the deputy to Fabio.
And he was like,
he was willing, even though he's a CFO, willing to take the deputy position to Fabio. Mike Kelly and I, our CEO, we were lobbying him, taking him to dinner and drinks and all that, and he was really considering it. And now that Fabio is leaving, I went to him and I said, hey, the number one spot is open. He goes, really? He said, so what about Fabio? I said, you accept the offer, I'll transition Fabio out.
He said, no, thank you, buddy.
I'm very excited. He said he's going to take the 4th of July, meet with his significant other, and he'll give us an answer the morning of July 5th. So I just wanted to cap out with that. The next time we have on agenda is lease enforcement. Kenyatta.
He's not even supposed to be talking about like you ain't supposed to talk about people that's
conversation.
The conversation you have with potential people that's going to be employed.
She was enjoying some much needed time off last week, so we apologize for the delay, but you'll get an updated fact sheet with all the information related to our enforcement efforts. But as of June 9th, there's a total of 1,613 families with the age receivable balance $51 or more. Still a large number, but it is certainly a decrease.
What?
About 20,000, which is good. We want to see the numbers going down.
That's like a quarter. That's over a fourth of the residents.
But, unfortunately, it's very slow in that process. The decrease of the 20 families equated to an increase in our age receivable balance of $45,000. How can y'all numbers one? Still continuing to grow because there's only a portion of their responsibility, like they're paying their current rent, but there's only a portion of the rent that is actually going towards that current balance. So it's going to continue to go up until those entire balances are paid off. So I'd rather see the number of families go down because that's taking away families who could be possibly evicted from housing. So it's always a good thing for the number to decrease. I'll deal with the increased age receivables more than the number of families that we have. Also, for the month of May, and unfortunately, the information as far as the cases is effective for May, because we want to make sure when we come before the board, we're providing you with the full month detail. So for June, the month of June, you'll get that information in July. But for month of May, we had 65 cases filed in courts, and 14 of those cases at the time that we put the information were still pending. Those cases we more than likely may have already went to court with, but again, we'll give you that update with the update for next month. 22 of those units we were granted judgment and possession. However, we have not, we may not have gone through with purchasing the eviction yet. We really want to be strategic in those efforts. We don't want to have mass exodus with our families, so we still want to be strategic, want to be thoughtful. But we're granted 22 of our units, we were granted possession. 5 of the units, we were granted possession only, which means we have to go back for the judgment. And 26 of the cases were dismissed. That's because those families went into a repayment agreement or they made the payment, which is also a great thing. Additionally, we are still continuing to work with our council persons to determine if there's any other resources that our families could take advantage of. Because again, the last thing we want to do is evict families. But understanding, we have to do what we have to do because we are obligated and regulated to do certain things. But we are still working with individuals outside of the agency to determine
unrestricted funds
and that's not very
pay
protected.
people rent.
Ms. Green, when you take families to court and they come in and do an agreement, if they renege on that agreement, do you have to go back to court?
Good question.
Because we consider, once they sign up for the repayment agreement, we consider them in good standing. So if they miss 2 consecutive payments, not just 1, then we go back. So that's why we have to file.
Thank you. Anybody else there?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Green, I don't want to put you on the spot, but elephant in the room, are you going to be able to help the young lady that left a little while ago?
We've already helped Ms. Evans. Ms. Evans has a voucher. Ms. Evans submitted the leasing packet. We completed the affordability. So remember when I came last month and we talked about that whole affordability rule? Ms. Evans is a victim to that because the landlord is asking for more than what her amount will satisfy. And so in our efforts with the landlords, we attempt to negotiate. So we tell the landlord,
You already helped her, but she came here. She came on the Joan complaining that she needed help.
And so I am, in all the time that I was here, I've never had a landlord that say no to $3. So I'm fairly confident that he'll say okay. But what I told her is that we'll reach out. We reached out to him today, and it might have been closer to the end of the day, so he may not have had a chance to respond. We'll reach out tomorrow just to get his agreement.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you be so kind as to come back next meeting and give us a report?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much on that case.
Chairman, can I piggyback on that question? So in this particular case, since she does have a voucher, the landlord that you're speaking of in particular, she's already living there?
No, it's a new unit.
Okay.
So remember when we talked last week, when you're moving into a new unit, affordability takes place. So now it's based off of your income. And so her income, what she had and what the rate the landlord was asking for, it was over what made the unit affordable for her by $3.
Right, I got that. The reason I was asking if that was where she was currently living, because it sounded like she was saying in the story that they wanted her to move out. So it's where she's currently living that we're talking about.
Yes.
So my question is there a protection voucher for her or relocation services for her until such time? Because what does she do if he does, in fact, because she sounded like she said he was only giving her 15 days.
So she did say when she initially made contact with him, he was giving her 15 days. But when she kind of talked a little bit more with him and told him, I got a full house, I can't move in 15 days, he was willing to give her more time. My statement to her was, just because a landlord tells you to move, like, you still have rights. And so one of the things that we'll do is we'll try and hurry and get the agreement, because once we get the affordability, we can schedule the inspection the same day. And then once it passes the inspection, she can move in immediately. And so that's where we are. So I hear what you're saying, and it's certainly unfortunate. We'll do everything possible so we can get you in a unit. But to your original question, unfortunately for HCVP, we don't have relocation assistance, and we don't have any other services that we can provide. That's the unfortunate part. But what we can do is try and hurry up and get her in her new unit.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call from the hallway. Can you do that?
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Yeah, as I had mentioned earlier, I'm at a board retreat, and I have a 7 o'clock meeting with the finance chair and investment. So I'd like to be excused.
You are more than welcome to be excused. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is the introduction of new public housing, what is called zone managers for operations and management. I'm gonna have Ms. Kenyatta Green talk about it. This concept is born out of what's called the tag assessment. You all know, the board members, you all engage the tag entity to make undertaking a comprehensive review of the housing authority, the Richmond redevelopment housing. I always remember we were redevelopment and housing authority, and to look at its operations and everything. And out of that, I think there were 53 recommendations, and one of those recommendations was what Ms. Kenyatta is going to talk about. It didn't specifically call it a zone manager, but it was one of the areas in which we believe there was a need. And I'll let Kenyatta talk about what this need has been met. And so we've checked the list off of one of the important recommendations from that tag assessment that you all, the board, asked that entity to make an assessment of the organization. And they thought this was a weakness, and we've now filled that position, those two positions. I'll let Ms. Kenyatta Green talk about.
So as we know, our current VP of Public Housing is Charles Williams, and for years he has been the supervisory for public housing. We're talking about 3,513 units, 10,000 people. We got our VP of Public Housing. So it was extremely important that we provide him with some assistance in managing both operations and the maintenance side of public housing. One of the important aspects to the role is having these individuals to interface directly with our property management staff on a daily basis. One of their tasks is creating standard operating procedures. So everything that's being done within the communities everybody's doing the exact same thing. So that's like a high priority list for them. And so we wanted to look for specific individuals with specific technical
they want to do it different.
Because number one, we didn't want just somebody to come in and make changes because we can do that, but we needed individuals who could interface with our residents. We wanted them to be advocates for our residents. We wanted them to speak to our residents. We wanted them to be in the communities. We wanted them to have those interpersonal skills so that
putting too much sauce on it, Miss Green. Too much sauce on it.
And we did just that. We actually promoted from within for our
zone
manager
terrible.
for operations.
Oh, that's terrible.
Pam Kearney, she is currently
my God.
manager too.
Miss Kearney, did you just hear that?
With the agency for
Everybody
a
talk
very
shit
long
about
time.
her.
She is very familiar with all of HUD regulations as relates to recertification, in terms of housekeeping, and all the different things that we need to make sure that we are doing again in our process. Unfortunately, I would have had them there, but I didn't know that I needed to. So my apologies.
So they just creating new positions, spending people money, spending the money to go to payroll by creating new positions.
Zone manager that we got.
Promoting people that people already say is a problem.
A long line of private industry, understanding of maintenance, and he has really hit the ground running with changes in our work order system and equipping our maintenance staff. And I am just floored with how he has really stepped on the ground and really started going and focusing on our maintenance staff to prepare them and equip them to be able to do what we need them to do. And so that enters Mr. Derek Trent. I am so excited for him to be here. I wish he could have come because he loves coming to these meetings with this, I call his Easter suits. Just jazz it up, like just makes the room bright. But I will ensure that they are at the next meeting so that you can meet them personally. But I think we would be very ecstatic with the choices that we made for these positions. But I am absolutely looking forward to the services that you provide.
This is great. I've always tried to keep track on chiefs and Indians. How many Indians are we still short as far as the maintenance staff goes?
Right.
I will allow Ms. Barty to provide that great news.
You it.
So for the maintenance specialists, we have 5 vacant maintenance specialist positions, but all of those positions are now filled with temporary hires. And we have 4 senior maintenance specialist positions. And we are also hiring 2 of those filling those with 2 temporary hires. And we're also conducting interviews to have those positions filled. So right now we have about 9 that's actually vacant, but they're really not vacant. That makes sense.
But they've been filled with temporary help, but they've been not permanent. And I know we discussed earlier on about looking at qualifications for those types of jobs. There have been some changes as far as people, qualifications that we have, that we require. And the folk that we're trying to draw from, especially when we talk about Section 3 and getting folks from within our own ranks, and most of them wouldn't be able to qualify with the requirements that we request. And we discussed maybe looking at another way of addressing that. Have you had an opportunity to do that yet?
At this point, so we don't need to do that. What we were going to do was reclassify those positions to maintenance tech positions, but we have since then filled those maintenance specialist positions with temporary hires. And once we fill those positions with temporary hires, we allow them to work in the community for about 3 to 6 months, and then we will hire on those employees permanently, those temporary permanently. So we don't need to declass or reclass those positions to maintenance tech positions because those positions are already being filled.
Outstanding. So more or less the temporary hire of probation people. Outstanding. Will they meet the Section 3 requirement?
They are not residents. They come through a temp agency, so they're not Section 3 residents. So no.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So on that issue, we have significantly made improvements since my first day I started in vacancies, almost 50% improvement. You all recall I mentioned that I'm going to start this soon, a on-the-job training opportunity for those that may not meet the particular qualification. And we'll be moving forward with that, and we'll be talking with you more about that as board members. I just believe that particularly if we're looking at folks in public housing, I'm going to say, you don't have a resume. We're going to give you an opportunity to create a resume because we're going to give you a job. You're going to get on-the-job training. So to your point about, what are we doing looking at public housing residents and giving them opportunities in some of those needed Section 3 folks. That's one, that's important. Number 2, as you know, we recently in several months, hired 2 young ladies, right? You all met through, they were Section 3 hires. But again, they had some, I'll just say, blemishes on their record. And I was able to make the decision as CEO that I would not let those blemishes stand in the way of hiring them. As you know, in the HUD, you can't have committed a felony. But if you have a blemish on your record, the CEO, I have that opportunity. I'm happy I made that opportunity, and we'll be looking for other opportunities for people who have, I'll just say, for purpose of public meeting, a blemish on their record. But I can have the discretion to hire them anyway. Last, Monday of next week, I'm going on the Gary Flowers show. You know that show, and I told them in advance. I go there every once a month. When I go there, this Monday of next week, I'm going to say, and you know his reach, right? He's the largest Black, listenership in the city, the region. It goes even up to New York, I think, over Chicago. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to announce we're going to have a day where we're going to a job fair day we're gonna take every open position that we have in this organization, and I'm gonna literally be as blatant, and I'm gonna read all of them. I'm gonna say, so if we got 20 open positions, I'm just thinking that, I'm gonna read them on the show. So if you got a resume, come on down, and we're gonna have a day. We're gonna have like a lot of, right? We're gonna have to be ready for that. Extra security down there. Some people are gonna come without resumes, but we're gonna say, come on to the Black and brown community. We can, some white folks can come too, but because his outreach is the Black community, and we know a lot of folk from Black will be coming, and we're gonna have to be ready. But I'm gonna use the opportunity for free advertisement, and I'm gonna read them. I'm saying, just come on in. And we expect we're going to find a lot of people flooding our doors on that show. I just want to say that.
Let's just put a little dabble in that black light stuff, and just open it up.
I hear you. So Mr. Chairman,
Get into trouble.
I want, but we're hiring all folks, but we're putting a focus though, and we're also going to send out a message to public housing folks who may not be listening to that. We're going to say, hey, come on in. And HR is going to have everybody coming in. And we're going to be taking in resumes. Take folks who don't have resumes as well. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the end of the CEO updates. I turn the agenda back over to you for committee updates, and these are just summary updates. So I turn the agenda back over to you to receive the summary update from each of those committees, and that should go pretty quickly. The first one is
All right, well, our updates are pretty simple. Projects are moving along. I won't bore you with any of the details, but we are moving several projects along. So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them. And as you can see, our board, our committee report was on time, even a little bit early this time around. So we are on track. Thank you, sir.
Speaking of finance.
Yes, sir. We had our finance and admin committee meeting yesterday. We are working with Rubino, our external auditors, to meet that June 30th COD filing deadline. The financial presentation showed a fiscal year-to-date revenue of $61.4 million, expenses of $57 million, net income of about $4.4 million. Agency vacancies, as Ms. Partee mentioned in her report, agency has about 22 vacancies in May out of 127 budget positions. We're about 90% filled with 4 Section 3 hires. IT fielded 76 calls in the month of May through their help desk. Very important fact that we talked about yesterday. Dark Traces issued an emergency upgrade prior to the numerous cyber attacks that you've been hearing on the news. This allowed us to be prepared for any potential cyber attacks. They were able to maneuver 11,062 junk emails in the month of May.
Yes, I did.
Procurement had 7 current procurement contracts, 9 future procurement contracts, and Mr. Brooks will present a resolution to the board shortly.
Thank you, Fabio. I didn't get a chance to lead you in. You jumped right in.
I'm sorry.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
And that's it for our administration and finance committee.
Because the commissioner's supposed to give that report.
He did.
Right, he was out of order.
No.
It's so funny.
I'm so happy.
The commissioner's supposed to give that
Right
report,
in.
but they always let the staff give it because the commissioners don't know what the fuck going on at the housing. That shit ain't
Our
funny.
next committee report is property management, Michelle.
Because if they really gave
Yes,
the
thank
reports,
you.
they would make
Ms.
them have to
Kimya.
pay attention to what's going on.
Absolutely. I think this is
Such and
the
such from
appropriate
maintenance.
place,
Can you get a
but,
report? Or such and
okay,
such
go back.
from
Sorry, I'm gonna be really fast. But
vice president
we
of
would
real estate.
certainly
Give the
like
real
to
estate committee report.
sincerely
But really,
express
a
our
commissioner
thanks
that
to
was
you,
at that
Commissioner
committee
Shelton,
meeting is supposed to get a
Ms.
report of what
Shelton,
happened.
and gratitude
You don't
to
just
your
let the
dedication
staff
to
tell
our
the
public
public what
residents,
they're doing.
to
Because you
our
want
property management,
the people that was appointed by government
and
to
the love
give the
that you've
fucking
shown in
report to
your time
people.
as the chair. We
They can lie.
appreciate
You know,
your
they
insight as
work
it
there.
relates
You
to
don't
all
want the
things
people
property
that work there
management.
to give you
I just
their
love
own
and
report of
enjoyed
what
when
they
you jumped in and provided insight on behalf of our staff. And so I am absolutely going to miss it. I enjoyed working beside you I look forward to our future and the things that we can continue to get done for our public housing. So thank you so very much. But also during the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off. Like it just wasn't nothing, but during our meeting, we discussed the before mentioned lease enforcement activities, so I won't go through those details again. The Vice President of Public Housing presented information related to the parking rules and regulations for the parking accounts in our public housing communities. This conversation will continue to our next meeting as we present additional information regarding a revised policy. The Public Safety Department provided camera updates related to installation and relocation of cameras for the elderly sites and additional community lighting upgrades that are underway in the Gilpin community. The Housing Compliance Officer, who's set to my right, discussed the fiscal year 23-24 annual plan comments. We are trying to do things a little bit different. And we did that intentionally to keep before the committee what the comments were for the 23-24 plan, so that we could make sure that we keep them in front of us for the next plan cycle. So we could look at and make sure or see if there's things that could fit into the next plan cycle. So she provided all those comments, and we talked about the revision to the annual plan process. Because next year we'll be looking at our 5-year plan. So we're going to start that. It's going to be a little bit more intensive because we have so much more to discuss. We also, lastly, because it was really short, this meeting was really short. Y'all missed it. But Tiana Parker, who's our administrative assistant, discussed a committee meeting parking, making sure everybody was on track with what they need to do to get reimbursed and things of that nature. And that was it for us. We ended, it was less than an hour.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Who is that? That's not even a commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to have Mr. Brooks to go ahead and give us a report on the minority contract in section 3.
He's also not a commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Good evening, everyone.
None of these
During
people are
our
commissioners.
meeting, which happened on the 8th of June, one thing that I introduced was the first draft of our MBE policy. That is something that that is still very much a work in progress. We were able to discuss what I had written thus far, and I was able to make some changes there as we were in the meeting. Currently, what we have so far is going to be under review by our legal department to ensure that in our policy we are making sure that we're complying with not only state guidelines but also HUD guidelines as far as contracting opportunities for those members of our communities that are in a protected class status, be it minority, Section 3, women-owned, make sure we're in compliance with all those guidelines. And moving forward from that, after legal review, we will continue to work on the document. Also, perhaps looking outward into the community for input to ensure that what we have within our policy is satisfactory for all parties involved, and to ensure that our community members have a voice in doing that and making sure that all people are satisfied with what we put out there as our policies. Another thing that I presented during this meeting was our monthly our monthly report for our goals for MBE, minority businesses, WBE, women-owned businesses, and Section 3 businesses for contractor payments. Right now, for all 3 categories that I do report on, we are on track to exceed our goal in the total amount of payments in this current fiscal year. We're going to exceed what we had in fiscal year 2022. As of the end of last week, a total of $3.6 million was paid to minority-owned businesses, and in last year, the total amount paid was $4.8 million. We still have quite a bit of time left until the end of this fiscal year, so it's very likely that we will exceed that amount, and we're definitely in a better place than we were last year overall as far as meeting those goals, actually exceeding those right now. For women-owned businesses, a total of $2.1 million has been spent thus far, compared to $3.2 million for fiscal year 2022. And for Section 3, this is really good. So far, a total of $1.24 million has been paid, compared to $1.18 for the entire fiscal year of 2022. So already for Section 3, we've exceeded the amount that we paid the Section 3 businesses, and we still have a good 4 months left in this current fiscal year. So we're doing pretty good. And Ralph Stacky, he talked about this upcoming event. It's going to be happening at the Calhoun Center on Friday, July 28th. It's the STEAM Expo. And there's quite a few things that are going to be happening there. But what we have going on there is there are going to be opportunities for children to participate in different presentations regarding technology. There's going to be ability to design sneakers. There's going to be someone who works with music production to perhaps help kids interested in music make their own beats, to give an introduction into music production and music industry, which I think is really cool. Also fashion design. There will be someone present for those interested in looking into that industry, and so much more. Again, this happens on July 28th at 11 a.m., until 3 p.m. And for anyone, I can also see this. I'm not sure if everyone has this, but I do have the flyer that I can provide to everyone. And that's all that was discussed during our
Any members have questions?
Mr. Chairman, so I want to expound upon that and then go back to the agenda real quickly. We're going to send out that invite for the STEM. We want, to the extent everyone's available, to come out and support the STEM event. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's similar to the one that Commissioner Parker and I attended Calhoun Center last year. But we want, you're going to be blown away. So that's and then Commissioner Parker, you asked a question yesterday about that specific contractor, and you want to know whether or not they were, that is the contract that we approve the extension of the contract. We do have an answer for you and other members who are available. It is the business that they do is extraordinarily unique, and it may be difficult for the owner to be able to find people then that Section 3 or to find that have those unique skills. But we'll get that email to all the members of the committee. We'll report back on that. But so we did reach out to him, and we'll get that back. And that was a promise that we made.
I guess you might want to say we do have an African American going to the moon in this flight. So we can't say that we can't do things. So let's not say we can't do some things. So
that's right, sir. Yes, sir.
And I would think that even if they decide, let's have them to come in and do some administrative things within the office, I think they can do something. I can't say where they can't do anything. They can just watch what's going on as you mentioned just now, as a mentor, protege type of thing. So let's not say we can't do these type of things. I think that's a cop-out, and we're not comfortable with that. We're not going to be comfortable going forward with cop-outs going on. As Mr. Davis said, it's a whole new day. As Mr. Davis said, it's a whole new day. And so we need to make sure that we don't let people get away with that types of things, and we make them hold them accountable.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we are, as I mentioned, I'll be working with our legal
Thank you
counsel.
for doing that though too. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're working with our legal counsel, George Martin, to fill that compliance person, that position, which is so needed, really, at the end of the day, to hold contractors, ensure that they're compliant with respect to the goals that they said when they signed that contract around minority women and the Section 3. So that's coming well.
Eric, I've got a young man at my house, and he's very interested in music. I can't get rid of a whole lot of it because he talked too fast for me. But he was supposed to start a program Monday that would help him groom his music, help him set up an LLC, and to put his music on the radio. And it's located here at 315 West Broad. And the program was put off till July because of lack of participation. So I don't have all of the information regarding it, but I can get it. And because
What?
this is something where we might have another conduit for getting some of our kids into a program, especially when we talk about setting up an LLC and getting their music played. So I don't know what that program brings to, but I know he was supposed to start it at Monday, and for lack of participation.
What
So
program?
you might want to, riding by on your way home, see that place, maybe find out some information about it, and see if there's an opportunity for them to join what we're trying to do or add to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Thank you so much.
I think one of the things too, if you do as Mr. Nesbitt had mentioned, come to that July the 28th event, you'll see a lot of young people.
July 28th.
It could be because
Yeah, that's a
rather
month
than
away.
training a lot of these folks
What the
in
fuck?
many areas that you might not even think they're being trained, and these people are ready to go forward into other things.
Niggas been
One
already
of the things
in.
that
I'm talking about a
black
month and a half
professional
into the summer.
engineers will be there at that meeting also, and
About
certainly
ready to
some
go
of
back to
those
school,
folks that
man.
they're trying to bring them into memberships, whatever else. So let's not take that
Oh,
easy,
technically the
because that's a
summer.
great opportunity for a lot of the young people in the Big Six to grow and progress into meaningful education and jobs, and that will last a lifetime.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. And the one thing I want to make sure, try to make sure we understand is that I've been listening at Stuckey since I've been here, and I'm very impressed.
Impressed?
It's going to be overwhelmed, and I see a lot of people want to be at the table and they are not. And so that everything
He's impressed.
Is that one guy's got it all, and there are folk outside wanting
Got it all and got nothing.
and not allowed to. So anytime we get a chance to expand the tent, I can't go and sit up in the barber shop for 2 hours for a 7-minute haircut. That's why I have more than one barber shop. We need to have more than one. What I'm saying is we need to expand the tent of opportunity by a lot of folk who are trying to give it to us. So just listen, maybe everybody might not be qualified, but let's try to get folk in there that can put a shoulder to the wheel. It's all about our kids, giving them opportunity.
Mr. Chair. Speaking like with the city, I'm sorry, with the vendor supplier network. If you'd like to see a vendor supplier network.
You need that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, if you would allow me to move through the resolution in an expedited manner, if you would consent, I would do that. The first resolution before us, number one, that is a resolution that is having to do with
They be letting this dude run the
party
meetings,
neighborhoods.
and he's
That
not
is
even
a
the chair of the board.
plan,
Like,
if you
that
all
should be
recall,
so crazy.
it was an amendment to the Richmond 300 plan, which is the master plan to develop the city. And city council, particularly Councilman Robinson, made note when the debate was going on what's the roadmap to develop this city for the next 10 to 20 years. She said, well, wait a minute, where is the Big Six? It was not contemplated in the comprehensive plan to develop this city. And she stood up and said, well, wait a minute, no. And what came out of that was an amendment. And that amendment was called priority. That is to say that the Big Six should be a priority as a city looks forward to deciding what are the priority, and it's called priority neighborhoods as an amendment. That's the name of it. And I'm proud to say that you all had, we mailed it out to your house, and what that looked like, each of you had it. I'm proud to say, Mr. Chair, that that this amendment here, which is having the biggest powerful, you think about it, that the Big Six will be looked at as a priority. And so that's what this amendment is about. I'm happy to say that it passed unanimously out of our real estate committee, and we have someone from the city today to speak on this, and it's Aaron Bond. But Aaron, are you on? Aaron Bond, are you on? So, if Aaron Bond comes back on, we will, you may be on mute, but we will try that again. So what I'd like to do is, so this, again, a resolution, Mr. Chairman, passed our real estate committee unanimously. And I think it's one that this board, we all would be, hopefully will be in agreement that the Big Six should be a priority. And I hope that you all vote this out as a full board, that it should go forward and that it should be adopted by this board. And I'll turn it on you and work with your own council on a roll call.
Alicia is jumping on if you wanted her to address it.
Is she on? No.
She should be joining right now. Unless you just want to head and call a vote, that's up to you.
We're comfortable with a vote, CEO. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt that.
It's been moved. Second. And properly second. Ms. Blunt.
Call roll. Mr. Johnson, please.
Aye.
Ms. Blunt.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Lewis. Brody. Motion approved.
Thank you.
We move now on the next resolution, under, it is number 3. And Mr. Derek, would you like to speak to this resolution before the chairman asked the call? Would you like to speak to the specifics of this resolution?
Sure, absolutely. So, this resolution, excuse me, is for approving the renewal of our contracts for electrical infrastructure emergency repairs with Matthews Power. Our initial 2-year agreement began June of 2021. It expired this month. And so what we are seeking is to exercise the first 1-year renewal option in the amount of $101,062. And for this contract, hey Siri, why are you listening? For a new value of the contract to not exceed $303,187. And I know that we did have some questions regarding this yesterday during our Admin Finance Committee meeting regarding participation of this particular vendor in adhering to our Section 3 policies. Initially, when they submitted their bid for this 2021, we did not have the same robust reporting requirements that we are now going to be enforcing for our contracts. They did provide us with a Section 3 compliance form as well as their pre-award hiring plan. With this contract, all of the positions they had to fill for skilled linemen. They were looking for 2 additional skilled linemen. And because of the type of work this involves, it's not your routine residential commercial electric work, but this actually involves high voltage, actually climbing on power lines. And so it's a requirement of theirs that the people who are working under this contract, that they are licensed, that they are skilled, that they have the technical knowledge. And unfortunately, with this type of work, it's difficult for them to hire Section 3 workers because of the high level of technical knowledge that is necessary in order to work on these particular projects. I do have what they committed to as far as what they initially provided as far as what they're going to hire, but unfortunately, like I mentioned, at present, with their hiring needs and what the terms of the contract are, what they're going to be working on, it's unlikely that they would be hiring Section 3 employees at this present time.
Chairman, yes. Given the comments by both of, or particularly Commissioner Parker, and this is a really unique area of work that they do. Given the comments by mentioned by Commissioner Parker, I'm sure echoed, and then was echoed, I'm sure by most of the members of other members of the committee, that this I would, I'm going to turn it over to you to work with lead counsel, to go forward and vote. But I was thinking we want to do what Commissioner Parker said, is not let, even though it is highly unique work, that we not let them off the hook, as you said, and that that you would offer, that a motion would be offered if it is offered, that this contract is approved on the, with the condition that we have a conversation that I have a conversation with the owner of the company, and that he, notwithstanding the fact that it is a unique skill, that that the CEO must talk to the owner, the discussion owner, and to ensure that he still, nevertheless, has to find a way to try to meet some of the Section 3 and other minority content, because even if he doesn't hire them for the unique
this is funny
work, there must be some other work.
He said we're gonna approve the contract, but I'm gonna have a conversation with him.
If there's a motion offered that it is conditioned to approve this, and I think it should be approved, but it would have a condition that CEO that is made speak with those to ensure that he's trying his best to meet those requirements, notwithstanding
a verbal condition. What is
And
he talking
with
about?
that, you will have the authority because it's a contract, isn't it?
Yes.
And you have an has the contract been signed?
As if you're voting on it.
So you have an opportunity, or you can go in and amend the contract to make sure that the caveat is in there, cover that.
If you all vote, if the motion is offered to approve this, on condition that I, as CEO, speak to him to ensure that he uses his best efforts to meet those Section 3.
Then the resolution got to be rewritten.
You brought
don't
in
even make
the
sense.
union companies to talk about housing finance. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
We continued those conversations, and we actually met with the electrical unions, and they have a facility where they are training. They've actually had to expand their efforts because they don't have enough people. So they are doing a lot of minority and female recruiting. We actually went out to their training facility. I would say probably half the class is minority and female. So we have been building a relationship with them, and that is a clear conduit to getting those people they need with those skills to put on the work that we're doing now.
For that comment.
That was
the fact that even though they're working in high voltage, 240 instead of 120, they're working in high voltage, that's still an area where we can work too. And the only thing about it is they will either have apprenticeships or helpers to eventually move up to that particular level. Now, we don't want to put our guys up there in that voltage because they're not used to working with rubber gloves and all this kind of stuff, and working where they've been before, but we want them to elevate to that particular level because that's where the jobs are. And we want to make sure that we move our people up to those jobs too. And it's not that something that they're doing it all the time because it's so magical. There's nothing magical about it.
Right.
It's about the fact that you haven't allowed me to come through the door.
Right.
We want you to allow that to happen. That's all I'm saying.
It sounds like we have an opportunity here with their efforts that they're doing, and CEO that's trying to make sure that it's being done, that we're covering that. So I will entertain a motion that we approve this with the caveat that the CEO has to go to pursue things that we're looking for is being complied.
Chairman, can I just say something first before we
Yes,
do that? As you know, the commissioners don't have a lack of confidence in our CEO negotiating skills. That's not an issue. You know that he's going to issue. You know he's going to negotiate the best deal he possibly can. But I think what we're talking about right now, since we don't have a compliance person, and this says that it says some of the conditions include scheduling meetings with community stakeholders. It's not about scheduling meetings with the stakeholders, including us. It's about actually having the conversation before anything is inked.
Right.
That they are accountable by things being specifically said. That's what we talked about, Derek, right? Specifically said in the contract from the beginning, before any ground is broken, because this is not going to happen overnight, which gives it time for them to have these apprentices to start learning and to be a part of that project when it happens. We want these people who are coming to get these contracts to understand that they need to put on paper that if they want this HUD 3 section, they want these contracts, that they're going to commit, not promise and say maybe, we could be, it might happen. The whole purpose is for them to have the verbiage in from the very beginning across the board for all of the contractors who want those contracts to do it. You don't want to talk about maybe, could be, because it's high, high voltage and it's high this, make a way.
And
That's what we're talking about.
The ultimate on compliance, everything else is the CEO. Back in there.
Talk that shit, blood. Talk that shit. Talk your shit.
You must give him the latitude to do it.
He already has it. That's what we're saying. We're saying it's not a question of that. What we're saying is at the very beginning, when they are trying to get this procurement done, we shouldn't be at the table right now having this conversation. This should have been at the very beginning with procurement. This is what we're saying. So now that we are at the table and they're already here saying this, right? You're at this part already. We still have the opportunity, like he said, to put this in there. Because if it's on here,
That's
some of the conditions.
that's the one you're looking at. That was for.
No, but it's on all of them.
Yeah.
Because we wanted it across the board. I'm just using an example. Because yes, we want it on all of them, not just the M company. We don't want them to say we're picking on them or we're not being fair. That's the whole point. So what we're saying is, since it wasn't on there when they did the bid, we still have the opportunity, since nothing's been inked, for our CEO, for our procurement person, for the legal person, anybody that has anything to do with those contracts, to make it be known, we're not asking you to do a favor. We're not asking you to, we're telling you that if you want this to go through,
hallelujah,
this is what you're agreeing to, because this is how we do business here.
Right.
Period. Just period. The
Right.
verbiage needs to be plain. We can't keep playing these games where we're being vague. Let's just do what we do. Other companies can say what they want to say. If we're playing with the big, if we're on the porch and we're the big dogs now, let's be the big dogs. We're an authority. We're not a small company. We're an authority. That means something.
An authority. I like it.
Anybody disagree with me? Because I think it's not a question of whether we're going to allow you to do it.
Right.
That's going to happen. That's your job. What we're talking about is making sure before anybody signs, votes, or does anything, that the M companies is very clear that we're not playing about this.
Oh my God.
This is not for them to decide, oh, well, we decided we couldn't do it because, no, it's not how this works, because now we have sanctions. It's not how this works.
And let me add this also, since we're talking about electricity. Matthews Electrical, they work in high voltage, and they're not the only one in Richmond or in the area that works in high voltage. C.W. Wright works in high voltage, and MC Dean works in high voltage. And so it's not that these people are the only ones that do this. And MC Dean is one of those ones that's around here now trying to draw more people in and have more interns and things of that nature. So they might be more interested in having a conversation about this particular thing too. So Matthews probably need to get off the fact that they're trying to have these smoke and mirrors around us and maybe wave something in front of us like it's all that magical and everything, and let them know that, hey, we like to, like, it's more than...
Yeah, it's how the niggas trying to be like, oh, it's a specialized skill. It's 240 amp. That's what he was talking about. Like, oh, it's 240 amps. So we need special people. We can't get the minorities in here. We need certificate. It's not no magical shit they're talking about.
Yes. I just want to make, and thank you for bringing up Commissioner Blunt, that this contract, we've been in contract with them. This contract was signed in 2021. And so the requirements to which we are holding them to now were things that did not exist.
Which is why we
in this initial term. Right. And so in keeping with that, I mean, I could provide perhaps more detail to explain why they require this particular skill set for these. Not saying that it's impossible, that they could find someone to do this work. But it's also a matter of who they currently have staffed and just like what their actual current hiring needs are to fulfill their duties to this contract. I still want to make another point regarding this. If we were to, I'm not saying that we can't, add these things that we're discussing, of course, but we also have to keep in mind for contingency and continuity of these services. If we were to say, no thanks, we're not going to renew this contract, we would then need to begin the solicitation process for these particular services, which I just want us to keep in mind can be a very time consuming and long and drawn process. Not saying that this is something that that we can't do this, but I just want us to keep in mind exactly what we have going on here. What it would mean if we were to stop this. Again, not saying that we can't include this caveat to their best efforts. That's the thing there.
Right.
Best efforts to the greatest extent feasible. Make that effort to hire Section 3 workers.
But understanding that with procurement, one, with them as the main contractor, whoever they don't have on their staff and can't afford to put on their staff, they can subcontract under that contract to get their job done. So they can't use that as an excuse, right?
Mr. Blunt, am I sensing some unreadiness in your approval?
I just want to make sure that, because this is something that we said we were going to do when we talked about HUD-3 and MVE. We can't have some people not doing it and starting a project hasn't broke down yet, and we're not having across the board the same things, because it's going to look like cronyism. Because a lot of people have said, oh, I know this person and I know this person. The other thing is again, we trust our CEO to make the right decision, but the problem is we need the contractors to understand how we do business.
The CEO is not doing nothing. He just saying he's gonna talk to them.
We've got 25 people on our staff. We only need 3 more, and those 3 people have to be an A linesman. Well, if your people can't do it, then I'm gonna need you to hire some subcontractors who can under your contract or something.
Can I say something, Mr. So
how you gonna cut her
all
off
of our contract
while she talking? Tell me, can I speak, Mr. She was talking.
Women, small business requirement in section 3 are in all of our contracts. So it is demand of all and anyone who gets a contract.
Right.
Our real issue is that we don't have, and we've talked about this, we don't have a compliance person that's going to say, give us your monthly reports, and give us your quarterly reports, and we will determine if you are in compliance.
Right.
And if you are not in compliance, these will be the said penalties. It could be even revocation of the contract. We don't know what it might be. I'll work with our lead counsel, legal counsel, George, to put some additional language in all contracts going forward.
Right.
Again, currently, the language is in there. Our problem is that we don't have someone who is following up, doing enforcement. We've never had that in procurement in this organization. I recognize that, again, like 6 months ago, I said it was an existential threat. I said, and we're going to do that. I'm working with the lead counsel to put someone in that position where we'll have some stronger language. But what really needs to a contractor is, if not only if the language is in there, if they clearly see if you are not in compliance, there's language that says that here are the set penalties, and those penalties will include and up to potential revocation of the contract. Whatever it is, I'll work with George on figuring what that language is, because I think probably what has happened is that that language about requirements is in all our contracts. We've not had it enforced.
Right.
Let's give them an opportunity. Okay. Mr. Davis.
Just a couple quick clarifications. Number one, you mentioned the other electrical contractors around town, and as board members, you all have relationships with any of those. We would be happy to, if you would help us with that, because there are contractors that will not work on our sites. We deal with that all the time, and so if we can increase the number of contractors and you guys can help us with that, that would be greatly appreciated. appreciate it. Number two, in this particular instance, this isn't repair work or whatever. In this particular place, we actually own the power lines. We are playing Virginia Power. And so we can't risk not having a contract in place. This contract is in my shop, so I can tell you that we will monitor in detail what is going on. And once that is put in place, we will ensure that every contract follows the same thing. But I just want to make sure that this contract doesn't get held up by what we're in the process of putting in place.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But we will hold them to it. And once we have a solid policy, we will follow that every single time.
And that's our hope too. But the second part that I was going to make about that was another thing about procurement that you mentioned, which is true, is the fact that when you said about stopping it, we were hoping that it wouldn't have to stop. But in the procurement process, it's supposed to be a certain amount of people bidding. Weren't there other people who bid as well?
On this particular contract.
Any procurement, aren't there supposed to be like more than one person bidding for contracts?
Well, we seek open and fair competition, but
Right.
we can't. But sometimes we receive a lot of different bids or proposals for our solicitation. Sometimes we may receive one, sometimes we don't receive any. There's no way that I can guarantee that we're going to receive several whenever we put out a solicitation. As far as this one in particular, I don't have it up in front of me. I can pull it up and see exactly what type of competition we decide and what bids we received.
Remember, this is a renewal.
Yeah.
This is an extension.
Yeah,
That's all this is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So you don't have others with this. You not only have the one firm you're dealing with.
Right.
And we're just trying to get one firm to do the right thing.
Right.
That's all we're doing.
But
And that's why it's imperative upon Steve to get involved and just have the conversation and bring that back. But in the future, we're going down a different road.
Right.
Yeah,
I
new
was
standards
speaking to the
and
point of what he was saying about stopping and not having a contractor. I was saying we would have other options if there were other people bidding on it. That's what I was talking about.
Well, in that regard, because we have awarded it to someone,
Right, that's
we would need to go, we would have to
Go
re-enter
through
that solicitation process.
Right,
Exactly.
right,
We couldn't
because-
just stop it like, okay, well, you bid it on, we cannot.
I didn't.
We have to start from
Okay,
square
I
one.
just wanted the one point I was making, because
Yes,
he said that as commissioners that we had, we knew people who were contractors, and I was saying that as commissioners, we can only do a soft introduction because we can't get involved. All they have to do is go back to procurement.
And look, having understood all of that, I was into it, y'all. Just, yep, readiness. Let's go ahead on the call to renew, to extend this contract. Get a motion on it?
Make me laugh.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we vote to extend with the caveat, allowing the CEO to speak with the owners of the company and make certain that there's clear understanding of our expectations and have some level of understanding on what that will translate. I will report back to the board on this.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Second. It's been moving properly second. Let's call for the question.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Pittsburgh?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Blunt?
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, last resolution on the agenda. It is with having to do with the redevelopment house to approve our annual agency plan for fiscal year 2023, 2024. This also passed committee unanimously. But before we move forward, I'd like for Ms. Calandra to speak to this, as she has been the lead on this for the agency.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. The agency's fiscal year 23-2024 draft annual plan has gone through the required co-regulation process. We have conducted work sessions with both our resident advisory board and our board of commissioners at large. We have had the required public comment period, public review and comment period, and we concluded with a public meeting, both in person and virtually, for our stakeholders to contribute, to come out and make comment. With that, RRHA, has had, the only revisions we had to make were regulatory revisions since the work session with the board. And, that was under our HUD's Housing Opportunities through Modernization Act, HOTMA for short. There were some, regulatory updates we needed to make to both our ACOP for the Low Income Public Housing Program and the administrative plan for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Those regulatory updates have been made and incorporated into RRHA's fiscal year 2023-2024 annual agency plan.
Move for adoption.
Second one.
Move. The second, call for the question.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Blunt.
Aye.
Commissioner Fitchburg.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Parker. Aye. Commissioner Cook.
Thank you. Any comments, you would like to make? Close. Hearing none, I just want to take the opportunity to thank CEO, council, and staff. Fabio, final farewell to you, my friend. Godspeed to you. And if there are no other concerns, move to
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Yeah.